Hi, it's Christian from the Communities team. The National Football Museum's collection is rich with the history of the game of our lives. In this video, we'll be talking you through 11 museum objects related to the early history of the game. First up, Thomas Webster's The Football Game is the earliest depiction we have of football in the museum. Perhaps the most famous painting of early football, it's clear to see we've got some way to go from this unruly scrum to the modern game we know today. No kits, no pitch, no rules. This early version of the sport is often now termed mob, medieval or festival football today. We still see early versions of the sport being played in the UK, most famously the Royal Shrovetide game played in Ashbourne, Derbyshire every Shrove Tuesday and Ash Wednesday. The game is played between two teams, the Uppards and the Downards, across the whole town, but there are very few rules. The football used is slightly larger than standard leather football, painted and filled with cork dust in case it ends up in the town's stream. The two goals, on the other hand, are millstones separated by 3 miles, so high scores aren't to be expected. Public schools saw the value in this team sport and sought to make it more civilised by writing their own rules. One of these codes of football continues to be played today by Harrow school pupils, Harrow football, using this slightly odd-shaped ball. Once the players left education, they wanted to continue to play, which is where we see the formation of early clubs like Sheffield FC, and eventually the formation of the FA in 1863. Despite disputes of whether tripping, hacking or kicking your opponent should be allowed, the clubs present at the meeting signed off on the laws, some of which we still play with today. The original FA rules weren't adopted overnight, but 9 years later, 1872 saw 2 landmarks for the sport. The first was the beginning of the FA Cup. This gold winner's medal on display at the museum is the only surviving medal from when Wanderers beat the Royal Engineers at the Oval Cricket Ground. Later that year, the first recognised international football match took place in Partick, Scotland, as England took on Scotland. This woolen jersey was worn by Arnold Kirk-Smith in a game that, despite England's risky 1-2-7 formation, ended 0-0. For the first 10 years of the FA Cup, it was won exclusively by teams made up of public school boys. This all changed in 1883, however, when the short-lived Blackburn Olympic beat Old Etonians to start an era of dominance for teams from Lancashire and the West Midlands. Blackburn Rovers the most successful, winning 5 of the 8 FA Cups that were played from the mid-1880s to the mid-1890s. With the advent of professionalism and the increase in popularity for the FA Cup, there was a need for a regular league competition. This came in 1888, when 12 founding members formed the Football League, and the famous Preston North End Invincibles went a full season undefeated to win the FA Cup and League double. A couple of years later, the ornate silver trophy, nicknamed the Lady, was introduced and awarded to the winners from 1891. There are several players from this early era of football history that you can find out more about at the National Football Museum. One whose legacy is particularly important is Arthur Wharton, the first black professional footballer, who despite being a talented sprinter, played in goal for several Football League clubs in the 1880s and 1890s. He's pictured here on a Baines card playing for Rotherham Town and is now recognised with a statue at St George's Park. Women's football can also trace its roots back to this era, the most significant team being the British Ladies Football Club. The club's figurehead was Nettie Honeyball, pictured here in a portrait from the Daily Sketch newspaper in 1895. The club went on to play over 100 exhibition games and contributed to the debate around women's rights, dress reform and class structure in Victorian society. So that's our 11 museum objects on the topic of the origins and the early history of football. But which objects have we missed out? Let us know in the comments. Find these and thousands of other artefacts in our online collection at nationalfootballmuseum.com, where you'll also find details of our school session, Early History of Football. Thanks for watching and subscribe for more football history content.